Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we are back to discuss a cold case that was solved after 34 years. I love that so many cold cases are being solved lately with new advanced DNA technology. This was also using facial recognition, which is just incredible. The police work, all these different states working together. Oh my word, I just love it when a case can be solved. It shows that there is always hope. It's never too late. Justice delayed does not mean justice denied. There can be justice. It might take some time for technology to catch up. So let's discuss this case in detail. I've of course got for you a presentation that I've made so that we can go over the timeline, everything we know so far. Then we're going to watch the press conference that they held after the arrest of this defendant after 34 years. And we'll also look, at this presentation, his rap sheet. You're going to get upset. Like, what the hell? Rob says, nice shirt, G. Oh, thank you so much, Rob. Thank you all for being here. Please like and share so others know that we are live right now. Also, if you are a YouTube member, tomorrow, which will be Saturday, June 13th of 2026, we will have a members-only stream after the public live stream. We're having a public live stream tomorrow to discuss another case. And then we'll have a members-only stream, okay? So please join me for that. I can't wait to see you there. Now, Cindy Wanner was born on May 8th of 1956 in North Dakota. She had family ties in Colorado. Her family was from the Thornton area and had moved to California around 1990 seeking a better life. In 1991, she was a 35-year-old wife and devoted mother of 2 young daughters living in the Granite Bay area in Placer County, California, near Sacramento. She was abducted and murdered in November of 1991, and abducted in broad daylight. That is what makes this case so scary. I just want to make sure my mic too loud? Hold on. It makes it so scary because she was abducted in broad daylight. Like, doesn't seem like there was any witness whatsoever, and it took so long to have an arrest, right? Now, of course, the defendant is presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law, but at this point, the case is considered solved because an arrest was made. So I can't wait to see that all play out in court. All right, so November 25th of 1991, Cindy went to her sister's house located in the upscale Granite Bay neighborhood that afternoon to help clean it. So apparently she did that as, either to help some family or she did it as a bit of a side hustle. There's not too much information about that, but she went to her sister's house and she took her 11-month-old daughter with her. The other daughter was with the dad, apparently. Now, at some point, which they were still together, by the way, it's just maybe she went to, I don't know the circumstances of why the 4-year-old wasn't with her either, but the husband, sorry, you guys are saying the mic's really quiet now. Okay, so it was good before. All right. The husband came looking for her later, right? Okay, so this was November 25th of 1991. So at some point, she took this 11-month-old daughter and put her in a high chair at the kitchen or dining table. Cindy then vanished from the house in the middle of the afternoon in broad daylight. Her shoes, coat, and car were all left behind at her sister's house. Ooh, that must have been so concerning, right? And then there were no obvious signs of a violent struggle or forced entry inside the home. Thank you. Copper Horse says audio is 5x5. Thank you so much. So here's a picture that I found of the scene. There was Cheerios. You could see the high chair. Shame, the little girl was at. It seems like Cindy was just giving her daughter some Cheerios and then she was abducted, right? And to think that this happened again in broad daylight is like, huh. So later that day, Cindy's husband arrived at her sister's house with their 4-year-old daughter and he couldn't find her. So that must have been, she probably said, I'm going there to help clean it and you can meet me there later, right? Their 11-month-old baby was still strapped in the high chair, crying and alone. Shame, which was very concerning. He then called the police and he reported Cindy as missing because that was not at all, what he expected to see. So A massive search followed. And then on December 14th of 1991, Cindy's body was found in a remote wooded area in the Sierra Nevada foothills near Foresthill, Placer County, California, about 40 miles away. A quail hunter, pictured here, spotted her body while he was out hunting, and he called the police. Her body was approximately 50 yards off Forest Hill Road in the Baker Ranch area near the Tahoe National Forest. So, if you're local, let me know in chat as well. Punk Gopher said, so eerie. I know, right? Okay, so you can see also the search teams on the right-hand side pictured there from that footage. This was a big case, especially at the time as well. People were like, what? Like, how could a mother of two just be abducted in broad daylight from her sister's house? Yes, so she was wearing, when they found her body, only her bra or underwear. The medical examiner ruled that Cindy had been strangled to death and had been sexually assaulted. Now, this is even worse, okay? They believe that she had been kept alive for potentially up to 2 weeks after the abduction, because they found her body about 20 days after the abduction, and they said that the condition of her body didn't match that she would have been murdered on the day she was abducted. So where she was kept for those 2 weeks is also an unknown in this case, even at this time. They haven't said anything about that. That is so scary though, right? What she must have gone through. So, Placer County authorities processed the remote crime scene. Physical evidence from the body and scene was collected and preserved. And during an intense investigation, detective worked leads, they interviewed people, they pleaded with the public for tips, and Cindy's case unfortunately went cold for 34 years. Shame. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. Grizzly Bebo said, I'm a local. This is where I live and just 2 miles from my work. Oh, my word. Okay. Tracy Smith said, I think I remember this case happening. Is it? Wow. Yeah, and Rob said, how awful for him to discover her body as well, right? So in early 2026, the Placer County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit submitted one final piece of original evidence from the 1991 case to the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office Forensic Lab for advanced DNA testing. They said over the years, law enforcement continued testing evidence without any sufficient results until newer DNA technology gave them new hope in finding Wanner's killer. The last item analyzed with newer or improved DNA technology finally produced a match to James Lawhead Jr. While the latest DNA match pointed them to Lawhead, finding him became a challenge. So now they had a person, okay, that they were looking at. But, okay, hold on. I just want to quickly adjust something. But they couldn't find him. Oh my goodness. So they knew the name. All right. So they said he appeared to have vanished completely with no official documentation of his whereabouts since 2005. It turned out that Lawhead Jr. had been living in Arizona under a new identity, Vincent Reynolds. That's what he decided to go by. They tracked down his sister, Terry Lawhead Steele, but she told detectives that she had not spoken to her brother in over 20 years. Now, look at this quote from this article. They said, although Steele had spoken with law enforcement several times over the years, several times, really? They said, including with our detectives just weeks ago, she claimed she had not heard from her brother in more than 20 years. Investigators discovered that James Lawhead had been living in a home that she owned. Placer County Sheriff's Office said in a statement. They said evidence also showed the two had remained in communication. That pisses me off, because that tells me that from the sexual assault and other DNA, they already tracked down a relative. That's what I'm hearing from this, right? Tell me, right? They tracked down a relative that matched the DNA, but they couldn't find this person. Who was this guy? Because they say over the years. Huh? So they spoke to the sister over the years. She's like, no, I don't know anything about that. So it must have been one of the leads they had, one of the clues, something there. But she lied to them. And she is one of the reasons that the case took so long to solve, because she covered for her brother. Has she been charged? Hell yeah, she has. We're going to get to that. Nana Junkin said, Gisela, I remember the story. OMG, glad to be here. Love to my Grizzlies. Thank you so much. Thanks for being a member for 42 months. Oh my word. So Terry Lawhead Steele, what the hell? Do the right thing. Once they had the DNA identification, investigators tried to find him in the US, in Canada. They looked into whether he maybe left the country entirely. Was he deceased? Where could he be? Detectives reached out to other agencies for help. And this is amazing, the Scottsdale Police Department, using the Arizona Department of Transportation's facial recognition system, identified a match. Oh my word, facial recognition. They said James Lawhead had been living under the alias Vincent Reynolds in Bullhead City, Arizona. The system is commonly used to detect fake driver's licenses, state ID cards, and suspected cases of identity theft. He was arrested in the driveway of his home in Bullhead City on April 24th of 2026. Holy crap. Now let me show you this quickly. This article here tells us a little bit more about this. Wait. So this says, wait, let me move myself. Hey. Okay. This is step by step, facial recognition process guards against identity fraud. And it says Phoenix, since the Arizona Department of Transportation began using facial recognition technology and training in 2015 to protect Arizonans from identity theft, detectives have brought more than 100 cases to court. Like, this is helping to solve cold cases even now. They said it's a process that begins when a person applies or renews a driver's license or ID card at a motor vehicle division office or authorized third-party business, and it is a seamless part of the customer's visit. After the customer's picture is taken, the photo goes through a check against all others in the state driver's license database while the customer finishes the application process. All of the analysis takes place inside a computer, and if the system finds the applicant's photo likely matches another photo under a different name, it flags the photos, putting a temporary stop on printing the permanent card. The photos are then sent to FBI-trained staff members at ADOT's Office of Inspector General, where they undergo 3 levels of review to verify that the photos are of the same person. They said this high-tech tool has really enhanced our ability to catch thieves, said Michael Lockhart, chief of the Office of Inspector General. When we couple this technology with other security measures like central credential issuance, it allows us to stop these criminals and keep Arizona IDs out of their hands. Damn! Janet Murphy says, facial recognition, amazing. Thanks, G. Oh, thanks for being a member for 44 months. That's amazing, Ryan. They said detectives and staff members are trained to look for similarities in facial features and even account for identical twins. If photos are confirmed to be the same person on multiple profiles, ADOT detectives will open an investigation. If detectives determine that a person is committing fraud, the license or ID card is never printed. The temporary credentials customers receive at MVD offices and authorized third-party businesses expire after 30 days, and ADOT's Office of the Inspector General investigates fraud involving driver license and identification card applications, vehicle sales by licensed and unlicensed dealers, and vehicle titles and registrations. It also assists state, local, and federal law enforcement agencies with investigations. For more information about applying for an Arizona driver's license, please visit, and they've got the website there. But that is amazing that was used to help solve this cold case. Like, they did facial recognition, and now we're going to get to how the hell did they recognize his face? How'd they know about his face at all? Oh man, this guy had a rap sheet. Forrest Nelson said, thanks Grizzly for bringing the best coverage. Thanks Mods for keeping the chat from becoming a feral free-for-all. And thanks Grizzlies for being who you are. Thank you so much. And Angie Lindstrand said, sorry, sad sack. And his face. Gotcha. Right? They got him. Thank you for your support there. Please like and share so others know we're live right now. What are they doing? Are they watching the World Cup or what? Soccer, right? Okay, so they said he was arrested, that's where we left off, in his driveway in Bullhead City in Arizona on April 24th of 2026. Now, James is 64 years old now. He was 30 years old at the time of the crime, right? And so he was booked into the Mojave County Jail in Arizona. Following the arrest, detectives interviewed him and served a search warrant at his Arizona residence. They found loaded firearms, a bag with $15,000 in cash, and a burner phone. Oh, damn, okay. They also learned that the home was owned by James's sister, Terry, 71 years old, and evidence of her being in contact with her brother over the years was also found. So she lied. She was arrested in South Carolina and charged as an accessory. They say detectives are attempting to retrace Lawhead's movements over the last 20 years, including in states like Washington, Oregon, and Arizona. They are investigating whether he's connected to any other crimes, Wu said. We're going to watch the press conference, right? April 30th of 2026, that's a picture of his sister on the right, by the way. James was extradited from Arizona to California, and he was booked into the Auburn jail in Placer County. He was charged with 1 count of murder with special circumstances that it was committed during the commission of a SA and also kidnapping. He's being held without bail, and he'll be arraigned on June 16th of 2026. Terry, his sister, is also back in California because she was arrested in South Carolina with a $500,000 bail set. If she's released on bail, she's already had to give up her passport and she'll have to wear an ankle monitor. For now, she's in jail on that bond, right? Okay. So, look at this. Just look at it. We're going to dive into his rap sheet in a moment. I just quickly want to show you this clip over here where they talk about him being extradited. Okay, so wait, let me put the sound on. Here we go.
Days after James Lawhead Jr. was extradited to Placer County.
As far as the court's concerned, just for clarity, across all cases, the court is setting no bail pending further order, and the matter can be continued.
His arraignment has been rescheduled to May 19th. Among the charges he's expected to face are kidnapping and murder.
And now June 16th.
In connection with the cold case of Cindy Wanner, a 35-year-old woman from Granite Bay who was last seen on November 25th, 1991. Her search lasted 3 weeks before she was found strangled to death in Foresthill. Lawhead is a suspect in this case, as he awaits charges.
Sir, at this point, would you request services of the public defender? Yes.
We're learning new details about the man who was on the run for more than 3 decades. Authorities say he had assumed the identity of Vincent Reynolds. Today we're learning he is also known as James Nichols. Lawhead faces 1 count of murder with special circumstances for rape and kidnapping, along with enhancements for prior crimes and an additional count of kidnapping. At this time,
Okay, so now let's look at his rap sheet. Then we'll look at the press conference that they had following his arrest, right? Okay, now look at the mugshots. Like, what the hell? Okay, it's always like this, right? Oh my word, they're like right under law enforcement's nose. James Lawhead's criminal history. Trigger warning, because it does get graphic now with what he did. It dates back to 1980. So in 1980, he broke into a 71-year-old grandmother's home, beat her unconscious, almost to death, and then essayed her 11-year-old granddaughter. That's who we're dealing with. He was convicted of violent sex crimes against a child. A state psychiatrist described him at sentencing as a mentally disordered SO who is not amenable to treatment. But guess what happened? He served 11 years and he was released early in 1991. Stop it! Why? What do you mean? He almost killed a grandmother and essayed an 11-year-old little girl. What? And then they're like, you know what? You've been a good boy in prison. You can get out early. So he was released in 1991, and that's the same year that he allegedly abducted and murdered Cindy Wanner. So he got out, and that's what he did. What else did he do? Because there are other unsolved crimes around that area. And they're like, he could have committed those. So they are looking into all of that, right? In 2002, he was arrested in Placer County for failing to register as a SO. In 2005, he was arrested in Lincoln, California on an outstanding weapons charge. He told someone that he thought he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison if rearrested and that he was going to flee. Is that someone his sister? Who'd he tell? Because who said that? I think it's his sister, but anyway. From 2005 onward, he went on the run. And he began living under the alias Vincent Reynolds in Arizona. I think it's his sister because he was staying in one of the properties she owned. 2026, he was arrested in Arizona. And there he is. Look at him. Oh my word. They said Lawhead Jr. was identified as the suspect by investigators thanks to advanced DNA analysis and testing, authorities said. He was 30 at the time of the crime and had been released from prison in early 1991 after serving 11 years of a 19-year sentence, also a 19-year sentence, come on man, for prior crimes involving a child. Okay, yeah, he was bound to reoffend. They always do, those types, huh? So they said this was one of the most notorious and heinous cold cases we have here in Placer County. We've never given up pursuing justice for Cindy and her family. We hope this is a small step in the healing process, Placer County Sheriff Wayne Wu said. This breakthrough and arrest reflect the commitment of our office to solve cases. It's why we pin on the badge and take the oath to serve. Our work is not done. James Lawhead will be brought back to Placer County, where he will answer to the charges for this crime. They said this arrest is a powerful reminder that time does not erase responsibility and it does not diminish our commitment, said Placer County District Attorney Morgan Geyer. Cold cases are not forgotten cases. They remain urgent, they remain personal, they remain a promise we intend to keep. Even when the path is long and difficult, there is hope. We'll continue this work steadfast and unwavering because you deserve answers, you deserve justice, and you deserve to know that you are never forgotten. Shame. Okay, and so they said there's a tip line. Detectives are now exploring the possibility that James Lawhead Jr. could be responsible for additional crimes. Come on, we know he is, right? Like for 34 years, what the hell did he get up to, huh? What else did he do? Right? So, they said, we encourage law enforcement agencies, specifically those across the West Coast, to look at any cold cases that may have similarities to this case and reach out to our team. Well, if anyone knows anything, if you see this face and the other mugshots we looked at, okay, if you recognize him and you know something, experience something, whatever it is, call the tip line. It could help solve other cases. It could help build the state's case against him. They said after more than 30, okay, sorry, this was a screenshot that I took from Facebook from someone that said, after more than 34 years, we have answers. Calling my sweet mama today to tell her that her best friend's killer, this monster who took away her best friend, my godmother, a mother to two beautiful daughters at the beginning of their lives, a dedicated wife, a sister, a daughter, has finally been arrested is something I prayed for continuously. Cindy was a beautiful soul. This monster got away with what he did for 34 years with the help of his sister. But God is good, and now for the next step in convicting this heinous, horrible man for what he's done. Frankly, he didn't pay enough time for what he did before he took Cindy's life, because that in and of itself is disgusting beyond belief. My tears today have been in both joy at his arrest and horror in finding out what he's done. May those victims find closure in knowing he will be behind bars where he deserved to be for the last 34 years, and if there are other victims, may they be found to provide peace to them as well. She said, thank you, Jesus, for providing this to Cindy's family and those that still love her today. Shame. Oh, my word. That is just also very upsetting that he was out and about for 34 years. Clearly, though, he was living with a lot of stress. If he's like, wait, I'm going to live close to, was it close to the border? Did they say close to the? I don't know. Anyway, he was ready to make, I just read somewhere, he was living at some point close to a border. I can't remember where. Point is, he had a burner phone, he had cash with him, he had firearms, he was ready to be like arrested at any time. He was trying to prepare, so I think it bugged him for a long time. He could feel he's going to get arrested. It's just unfortunate that it took 34 years, right? Okay. So, Evergreen said, shame on you, Terry. I mean, yeah. Usually, would I pile on? No, in this circumstance, absolutely. Shame on you, Terry. The hell with this sister? Why are you helping your brother like that? That is wrong. I mean, imagine how many other crimes he very likely committed, right? Okay, so that is it for the presentation. Now, let's watch the press conference. Wait. Oh, yeah. Let's do that. Like this. Let's make sure the sound is good.
Development in a decades-old murder investigation. Okay. It's one of Placer County's most well-known cold cases, the murder of a mother. Her 11-month-old baby left crying in a high chair. It's remained unsolved until now. So to walk us through this, I will hand it over to Sheriff Wayne Wu. We will take questions at the conclusion of this.
Thank you, Elise. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon so we can share this major breakthrough in a 34-year-old cold case. We're here to discuss the 1991 kidnap and murder of Cindy Wanner out of a home in Granite Bay. Arguably, this is one of the most heinous, notorious cold cases we have here in Placer County. As Elise mentioned, it occurred on November 25th, 1991. She disappeared from the home. Hours later, her 11-month-old was found still strapped to a high chair, crying. Her remains were found approximately 3 weeks later in the Foresthill area, where pathologists at the time feel like she was kept alive for some time after she went missing. She hadn't been dead and left in the Foresthill area for 3 weeks. Now, I'm pleased to report that last Friday, Detectives from the Placer County Sheriff's Office, members of the cold case investigation team with the assistance of the Bullhead City Police Department in Arizona arrested the monster responsible for this crime. And he's identified as 64-year-old James Lawhead Jr. Now we hope that this arrest will help bring some justice and closure to Cindy Wanner's family. But as I'm going to talk about the case and the circumstances about the case, we actually have been looking for Mr. Lawhead for quite some time. And we were just preparing to ask for the public's help. We created a video that was going to go out this week to ask for the public's help in helping us find Mr. Lawhead before we got this lead and arrested him on Friday. So I think it would be best if we showed the video now, and it can kind of tell the story about Cindy Wanner's case and how this case has transpired, and then I'll add to it after the video.
Okay, so they play the video through here, but I'm going to play it for you a different way. Hold on. Better quality. Okay. We'll go from there. Excuse me, sir. Hello. Don't know why it's buffering. Stand by. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got this clip for you. I've just removed the music in case that's a problem for YouTube. So here we go.
Cindy Wanner was a married woman with 2 young children. She was kidnapped in the middle of a day in November of 1991.
Tell me if you can hear that.
She just disappeared from the face of the earth. She was found strangled to death and found in a very remote area.
Granite Bay is the kind of place where some still leave doors and blinds open.
Just something that didn't happen in Granite Bay. It was shocking.
After more than 3 decades, we believe we know who is responsible for the murder of Cindy Wanner.
Cindy Wanner had gone to her sister's house to clean her house and took her 11-month-old child with her. Around lunchtime, she had put her child in a high chair at a kitchen table. Cynthia's husband arrived at the house with their 4-year-old daughter and found the 11-month-old.
The baby was still here in the same seat, still crying with the Cheerios.
Cindy Wanner, devoted mother of 2, has disappeared without a trace.
Leaving her shoes, her coat, and her car at the scene.
The search pattern has fanned out in all directions from this Granite Bay command post. So far, they haven't found a thing.
She was found 3 weeks later, 300 feet off the roadway in a wooded area.
Investigators say the killer made no attempt to hide the body. Up to now, no tracks or clues have been found.
Isn't that also quite frightening? Like, no attempt to hide the body. That's quite a brazen killer who could be a serial killer. They could have caught a serial killer now, right?
Police hope samples taken from the body will show them something.
Over the years, a huge amount of work was done on this case.
We had submitted numerous items and just kept getting blanks. And it was actually the last item we had submitted. Thankfully, due to the new technology, Contra Costa's forensic lab was finally able to get us a hit.
We've identified this individual as James Lawhead Jr. He was a sex offender, spent some time in prison for some sex crimes.
In 1980, he broke into the home of a grandmother and beat her unconscious and sexually assaulted a young child.
Was sentenced to 19 years in prison, was released after 11 years. This crime was committed 10 months after he was released. In 2005, he was arrested for a weapons charge, told an acquaintance that he believed he was going to go back to prison for the rest of his life and that he was going to disappear. And shortly after that, completely disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
This man has been on the run for a long time. He has obviously taken great steps to avoid responsibility, to get away with the crimes he's committed. Cindy Wanner and her family deserve answers. They've waited for 30-something years, and now it's time to bring this individual to justice and to hold him account for what he did to this family.
Okay, I don't think there's sound there now because we're going to go switch back now to the press conference. Here, no, that's not it. This is the one. Okay, here we go. Wait, I got to put the sound back on for you.
So, coming off of that video, I think gives you guys a good picture of this case. But as I stand here as the Placer County Sheriff, I couldn't be more proud of the hard work of the men and women off to my right, and never giving up on this case and continuing to leverage the emerging DNA technology as things evolve and solving this case. You know, as the video mentioned, once we identified James Lawhead as the suspect, it appeared that he'd just disappeared since 2005. And we explored all possibilities on what could have happened, whether he was still living under a fake identity, whether he had left the country, or whether he was even deceased. And we checked records throughout the United States and Canada. But late last week, really an unsung hero in this case, there's many, is an analyst from the Scottsdale, Arizona Police Department. Our detectives reached out to other jurisdictions and other...
That is a hero, that analyst. Oh my word, the way they use that technology to piece this all together and be like, I think we have a match here. There's a guy that, those mugshots, yeah, he's here now.
States who have permission to leverage facial recognition technology, and this analyst used the Department of Transportation database in Arizona and got a match on a photo of James Lawhead. And we quickly responded to the area with the Bullhead City Police Department and arrested him that same day. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about James Lawhead's past, covered a little bit of it in the video, but that 1980 case where he was convicted is one of the most heinous crimes you'll read about. He broke into a home and beat a 71-year-old grandmother nearly to death, stating he thought he killed her. He then
Imagine what he did before that crime. We know what he allegedly did after, when he got out of prison. And then imagine what he did in the 34 years since then.
Subsequently raped and sodomized the 11-year-old granddaughter. All that being said, he only served 11 years. And when he was sentenced, psychiatrists from the state classified him as a mentally disordered sex offender who was not amenable to treatment. Yet he was still released after 11 years and kidnapped and murdered Cindy Wanner within a year of his release. Now in 2002, he was in the area. He did have other contacts with law enforcement. He failed to register as a sex offender in Placer County, and he was arrested. His mugshot is over there off to my left. And then he had an outstanding weapons charge arrest from the city of Lincoln in 2005. And that is when we believe he assumed the identity of Vincent Reynolds, and he disappeared. Now, when he was arrested, we arrested him at the driveway of his home in Bullhead, Arizona. He did not resist. He has since been booked into the county jail in Mojave County in Arizona, where he's being held on charges of kidnapping, murder, and being a wanted sex offender. Our detectives flew out there immediately upon his arrest and served a search warrant, seizing numerous items of evidence from the home, including multiple loaded firearms staged throughout the house and a bag that had his clothes, $15,000 in cash, and a burner phone. Now, he will be brought back to Placer County to be held accountable for his crimes. And then also...
And he already has been?
Arrested in this incident is his sister, whose booking photo is down there on the far left, Terry Lawhead. She's 71-year-old Terry Lawhead, who resides in San Clemente, California. She was arrested for accessory, and we arrested her on Saturday the 25th in Lancaster County, South Carolina. Now, Terry was contacted numerous times over the last 20 years, including by the Placer County Sheriff's Office in search for her brother. The last contact we had with her was in March, where we explained to her exactly what her brother was wanted for and explained to her the circumstances in Cindy Wanner's case.
Maybe previously when they'd contacted her, it might not have been based on the DNA evidence in this case, because that took years, right, to even get to. Maybe it's because since 2005, they were looking for him for not registering as an SO, right? And on the weapons charge. So that's probably why. No, I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in 20 years. Based on that, she would then know what he did in 1980, what he spent time in prison for, and that he got out. But maybe she had absolutely no idea about this case, huh? Either way, to lie to the police and say, I don't know where my brother is, I haven't seen him in 20 years, but you have him living in one of the houses you own in Arizona. Like, come on, man.
She still denied any knowledge, said she hadn't seen or heard from her brother in over 20 years and that he may have possibly been dead. When in fact, investigators later found out the home that Mr. Lawhead had been residing in Arizona was owned by his sister Terry, and they had been in some communication, and she was aiding his escape. So with that, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my partner, who also has an investigator on our cold case investigation team, to talk a little bit about the prosecution moving forward, and that's Placer County District Attorney Morgan Geyer. Thank you.
Okay, hold on. So Punk Gopher said, how are people able to live under pseudonyms in this day and age? How was he supporting himself? I understand his housing situation. What about food, clothes, general life stuff? I wonder if his sister was supporting him. I wonder with his new Vincent Reynolds name, if he was, I don't know, maybe he was working somewhere there. I wonder if he got married. There's not too much information right now. You know, the family hasn't made statements yet since the arrest, as in the victim's family, right? So there's not too much information about how they're doing. I hope they're okay. And also, there's not too much information about was he living alone? Did he get married? Did he have children? Where was he working? We don't know all that yet, right? So let me know if you want to follow this with me. You could do that by liking and sharing and leaving some comments below.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Morgan Geyer, the Placer County District Attorney. Our office has charged Mr. Lawhead with 1 count of murder and 2 special circumstances, one for murder a rape during the commission of a murder and a kidnap during the commission of that murder, as well as an independent count of kidnapping. Needless to say, this is an incredible case, and I want to first start by commending Sheriff Wu and the men and women of the Sheriff's Office, specifically the cold case team.
Quick pause. Melanie B said, I heard he was working as a truck driver. Oh my word. Can you imagine how many crimes he may have committed? It could literally be a serial killer, based on the crimes that we already know he was convicted of. 34 years. Imagine if he was a truck driver, even since 2005. Like over 20 years. What? That is scary.
Justice, just because the passage of time, doesn't mean justice diminishes in importance. This family has suffered in anguish for 35 years, and they deserve some accountability. This was an enormous case that devastated a family and shook a community. I was in high school at the time. I didn't live far away. I remember my parents talking about this case. The entire community talked about this case and the Wanner family. And for this day to occur represents that our investigators, our prosecutors, continue to work on these cases. Simply because the passage of time doesn't mean any importance is diminished. We harness new technology, we commit to good old-fashioned police work, and ultimately apprehended someone responsible for this crime. The legal process will unfold. It's still to be determined when we will see Mr. Lawhead here in Placer County, based on the extradition from Arizona. But we look forward to his arrival here so we can commence prosecution and give some measure of justice to the family and to the community. I don't use the word closure because I don't really think there is such a thing, but at least there can be accountability and some finality for the family as they begin to navigate the criminal justice process. So,
shame. Okay, hold on.
Again, I want to thank...
Sorry, sir. Somebody said, yeah, Sir Bold and Snarky, he's never getting out ever again. Exactly. Somebody said, Penny Brown, please follow the case through sentencing. Okay, you're voting. Did you vote with your with your yes? Vote, okay. Also, Nathan Albright said, as a truck driver, what kind of truck? We don't know. And somebody said, Mary said, this case definitely needs a Grizzly deep dive, all those years on the loose. The thing is, there's not much information. I've been looking, I've been digging. I want to know, I have so many questions. There's not much that's public right now. Not even the name of the victim from the 1980 case. What? 2 victims, the granny and the little girl shaman. I understand that the minor's name would be protected, but like the 71-year-old lady, there's just not much information on that. If you are local and you have more information, even over the next weeks or whatever, Send it to me, okay? Because, yeah, this case, there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of potential other cases that can be solved now.
Thank our partners, the Sheriff's Office, for this incredible arrest, and we look forward to bringing Mr. Lawhead to justice as swiftly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. So moving forward, we already know that under an assumed identity, Mr. Lawhead lived in the state of Washington, Oregon, and Arizona. Obviously, there is a lot of work to be done by our investigators to
Washington and Arizona, what?
Forward to bringing Mr. Lawhead to justice.
So moving forward, we already know that under an assumed identity, Mr. Lawhead lived in the state of Washington, Oregon, and Arizona.
Washington, Oregon, and Arizona. If you knew a Vincent Reynolds there, encountered him, saw something, know something, please do call the tip line that I shared in my presentation, which Placer County also shared on their Facebook page. Oh my. He moved around a lot, huh? Oh, my word, okay.
Obviously, there is a lot of work to be done by our investigators to trace his movements over the last 20 years, also to see if he's been involved in any other crimes since then. So we're urging any other law enforcement agencies to check their cold case DNA against Mr. Lawhead's and to work with our investigators to piece together a timeline on any additional crimes that Mr. Lawhead could potentially be responsible for. And before I close and open up for questions, I really do have to give a lot of thank yous. The Sheriff's Office didn't do this in a vacuum, and we couldn't do it alone. First of all, like I said in the beginning, I couldn't be more proud of the hard work and dedication of the men and women to my right who really worked tirelessly to bring some sense of justice to the Wanner family and hold Mr. Lawhead accountable. My partner, District Attorney Morgan Geyer, and his office for their collaboration and partnership, the Laisha Boyden and the U.S. Marshal's Office for their assistance, our Board of Supervisors and our County Executive's Office. Honestly, we couldn't do what we do without the support, both for Morgan's shop and the Sheriff's Office, financially in our budgets, to provide top-notch law enforcement service and take cases like this and work them tirelessly to make sure we find justice for the victims. The Bullhead City Police Department in Arizona, obviously the Scottsdale Police Department, the Orange County Sheriff's Office, the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office in South Carolina, the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office Crime Lab. We couldn't have done any of this without the assistance of all of those agencies. And then I think finally in closing, I have to point out that working cold cases is also a very expensive endeavor. It costs a lot of money going to a lot of these private labs to do this DNA testing. And while the Sheriff's Office, through the support of the county, has invested a lot of money in some of these tests, we had some initial success. And I've spoken about that success out in the community, and it has touched members of this community to stand up a Placer County Cold Case Foundation to raise funds to help investigate these crimes. And it was, in fact, donations from members of this Placer County community that paid for the testing.
That's
that
amazing.
Actually solved this case.
Damn.
So with that, we will open it up for a short question and answer, but I would ask that understand there's a lot of things unfolding right now, and this is an active investigation that will be prosecuted, so there may be a lot of things that we cannot answer. So with that, is there any questions?
Sheriff, your message today to the Wanner family. Obviously, there's no closure and it doesn't bring her back, but what would you say to them more than 30 years after?
You know, nothing can bring back the loss of their loved one or even attempt to overcome the trauma that they've been through over the last 34 years. We hope this is a small step in the healing process for closure and to bring justice to this case, and we're keeping them all in our thoughts and prayers.
Is the family still in the area?
They are not, but they have been kept informed throughout this case, and they're aware of the arrest.
Shame. Her poor husband and daughters who had to, daughters had to grow up without her. 11 months old and 4 years old. Shame.
Sheriff, is there any reason to believe that the suspect knew Ms. Wanner before this happened, or that they knew each other at all?
No.
And could you tell us when exactly he was identified as a suspect in the case?
Yes, when?
We got a DNA match earlier this year. It has.
See, only earlier this year, they got a DNA match. So I think over the years when they spoke to the sister, it must have been for the other stuff, huh? Weapons charge, registered SO, where is he? Where's your brother? We're looking for him. He's got an outstanding arrest warrant. Oh, okay. So, wow. They only, through the community's donations, through that funding, were able to do these additional DNA tests, and that got them the match, and then they had to try and track this guy down, which they then found. Wow.
Hasn't been that long.
Like, just think of all the teamwork. Think of the community raising the funds privately, right? And then they can do the DNA test. And they're like, what? We have a match to somebody. Oh, my goodness. And he committed these other crimes. Now, where is he? Now they're going to look for him. And then they use, from Arizona, facial recognition. That's all a lot of amazing teamwork. Wow, to get here.
This question is for both of you, Sheriff and DA Geyer. What would you say in the system failed to allow this guy to be released and then commit this heinous crime? Where did it fail?
I don't want to become overly political. I'll just say that I would say that newspaper article speaks for itself in that I think the justice system here in California is broken. It's probably more broken than it was then, that allowed Mr. Lawhead to get released after only serving 11 years. And we talk about elder parole and all the other things that are going on right now. But I could go on in that conversation for a long time. But honestly, I think today is about Cindy Wanner, her family, and her memory. And don't want to become overly political at this time. I'd be more than happy to do some interviews later, as I'm sure the DA would, and talk about our thoughts on elder parole. Thank you.
The other homicide, the conviction we had before, is that here in Placer County?
It was in Sacramento County. It was attempted homicide and rape and sodomy of an 11-year-old child.
I mean, the trauma that that child went through, and that person then had to grow up with and live with for the rest of her life. That is so sad. That was an attempted murder on a 71-year-old lady. To then get to the child. So you know what? Never mind a potential serial killer. Imagine being a serial. He probably is. He's definitely a serial offender, right? Imagine how many other sex crimes he's committed. They got to look at missing children too. You know what I mean? Wow.
All right. See no other.
One more.
Yes, sir.
How much does it mean to the office to bring a resolution to this case that has been one of the most notorious cold cases in this region for more than a generation?
Yeah, I think this is why you pin the badge on. This is why you take the oath to serve in the first place. We've really made it a top priority since 2023 to put a lot of resources and financial effort into solving some cold cases, and we've done some phenomenal work. There are a couple cases that are probably the most heinous and the most impactful on our community. This is a case that, as I go speak in the community, I still get asked about. So to have this as a case that we were able to solve, I think means the world to all of us, and I think it's just it's very fulfilling that we can hopefully bring some sense of closure and justice to her family.
Shame. Okay, wait. That end screen. Okay, new MGK song. What? Okay, sorry. Moving on. If you're part of the member streams, you know. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow for another member stream, right? All right, so that was the press conference. That's what we know so far. I tried to dig up as much as I could. That's what we know so far about this case and that arrest. And with many of these cold cases, we've seen a bit of a pattern that they could have quite the rap sheet from the past, and maybe they were released once, twice, maybe even 3 times, who knows, in and out of prison. This one in particular, that was a really heinous crime committed in 1980, convicted of and served only 11 years. And as soon as he got out, within 10 months, allegedly abducted and murdered Cindy Wanner and kept her somewhere, is what they believe, for up to 2 weeks. Can you imagine? No one will ever know what exactly happened to her in those 2 weeks, what he was doing. That is scary, right? So, I don't know. I hope it's never too late to find more info, right? Like, where did he keep her? Because if they can find that, maybe they could find evidence of other victims. Also, to just put a body in the woods like that, just exposed, that's also quite something. Technology definitely caught up to him. Maybe back then he thought he could get away with it. No, now your DNA, it was a match. Now, yes, in 2026, but it's never too late, right? Man, okay, so thank you everyone for being here with me to study this case. What we're going to do now is teleport to tomorrow's live stream. I hope to see you there. And that's going to be about an elderly serial killer that was caught shopping in a wheelchair with the victim's leg on the wheelchair. Do you remember that case? I've covered it before. I've got 2 videos on it. Harvey Marcellin. Yeah, that guy who at some point identified as a female but then has reverted. That person is a serial killer. And that person was also convicted, spent time in prison, was let out, and then committed heinous crimes. So we're going to look at that tomorrow, that sentencing, because, you know, I like to see cases we followed years ago. I mean, it was 4 years ago, I think, when I covered that. And so let's have a look at that. Here we go. Here's the link. Live stream tomorrow. Stop it. Stop making typos. I tell myself live stream tomorrow. Okay, here we go. That's the one we're going to discuss tomorrow. I'll recap the whole case. You don't have to go watch the other videos if you don't want. We'll recap the whole case. We'll go over the sentencing and all that. I just want to tell you about that crazy story because I think a lot of people missed it. I think my channel was still a baby back then. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm so glad that the wheels of justice are finally turning for Cindy Wanner and her family, sending them so much love and courage. This must be quite a shock as well right now. A relief, but also a shock, you know. And I will see you again tomorrow. Bye, everyone.